Hey, what is up guys, welcome to a character selection tutorial, an improved one. I know we have another one on the channel, but we never really showed how to change the scene using that character, and I've been receiving a lot of requests for that, so that's what I'm doing today. I'm correcting my own mistake. And here's the setup we currently have. As you can tell, we're gonna have like a little screen like that with our character. We can actually choose which one. And I ran out of model, okay? That's why we have like some weird chess model. So we can choose between the wolf, the carrot warrior, and then the 3 chess piece. We have a simple menu selection. You could be doing it with the keys if you prefer, but we did it with a menu. And then when we click on confirm, it goes in the game. And in the game, you can then, you know, do your thing. Just have your character, right? And if we try again, we go with, say, this time I'd rather have the wolf, and we just move around. As you can tell, we instantiated the wolf, and yeah, good times. Guys, without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so let's start right away, and as always, let me explain to you what we have right here. So we have two different scenes. We have one scene called the character selection, which is the one you can see over here, and we also have a scene called the desert scene, which would be one of my level, or wherever I'm trying to spawn which character I'm selecting. And also, I've imported 2 of my models, so the little carrot warrior over here, and also the low polygon wolf, as you can see down here, and they're in my game right now. They're just stacked on top of each other. As you can tell, I simply drag and drop them in and rescale them like I want to. So, as you can tell, they're over here. What I'm going to do right here is something quite simple. I'm going to create a new object. And this object is a empty one, so Control Shift N if you prefer. And this game object is going to have a specific name. I'll call it character list or something of the sort, and I'll just make sure it's at the center of the world. Now what I'll do is I'll take both my characters, so the low polygon wolf is going to be the first one. I'll drag and drop them on top of my character list. This is just like the first tutorial we did on character selection. And right now they are the children of the character list object. And this is where we get to scripting a little bit, so we could create some kind of UI. Right now if I press play, my camera is centered on that. We have like a little fire animation going on, even though it's really bad. And our object, our stack here, is what we're going to do. We are going to create a new script on top of the character list. And this is going to be, say, the character selection. Let's open it up. And the first thing we're going to need to do in this case is get a reference to every single objects we have. So right now we have what? We have 2 objects, the low polygon wolf and the carrot warrior. Here is what we're going to do. We'll declare a private game object array, and we'll just call it character list or character object list. It's up to you. Now in a private void start, we are going to go ahead and just fetch every single object we have, and I'll just zoom in a little bit so you can see better. The way we do this is in the start we're going to say character list is equal to a new list of game object, and now we're going to be defining the size of that array. Now the size of the array cannot really change, so we need to define it with a good number here. If you have 2 characters, you could type in 2 manually, but if you'd like to have this more dynamic and you want the code to read how many objects there is, we can do something like this. So let's do transform child count. In this case, this is going to return 2. If we had 3 models, this would be 3. Okay, so we created an array of that size, but we still didn't put anything in it. So what we're going to do is we'll do a for each transform that we'll just call T in transform, just like that. So for every transform in my transform, and this object is actually the list, that's the parent object. So for every children object I have, we're gonna say, we need to keep track of some kind of int actually. So you know what? Instead of doing it that way, I'll do a for loop. So for int I is equal to 0, as long as I is smaller than transform.child count, I++. Okay, so we're going to do something really similar to the for each, but instead we're going to be using a normal for, so we can have the index. Okay, so at the number 1 index of the character list, well, at the number I index, we're going to say it's equal to transform get child at the index I. And just like this, we have filled our we pretty much just filled our whole array. Now this is also going to take in the dot game object. No, sorry, it's going to have to be a dot game object at the end because we're getting the transform object. GetChild actually returns a transform if I'm correct. And yeah, so we have to do a dot game object if we want the game object. And that's all we need to fill our array. So the first step is done. Right now we have a character list. A character list is a game object array that knows, okay, we have a reference to the low poly transform and also a reference to the caret warrior. So we have these two in the list. Now what we're going to do at the very beginning is we're just going to shut them all down. And what I mean by saying shut down is we're simply going to just make sure that none of them is visible. They're still there. They are in memory, but they're not going to be visible. So let's do it for each game object go in character list. Then we'll do go.setActive is equal to false. Now I know we only have two objects and we could only be setting the second one to false, but I'm just doing that so in case you have multiple objects, like 10 different characters, so this method is actually scalable. Okay, so first step, we fill the array with our models. The second step is we toggle off their renderer so we don't see them anymore. And finally, let's toggle on the first index. So let's toggle on the very first model we have. So let's go ahead and just say if character list at the index 0 exists, so we can simply leave it like that. So if it exists, let's do character list at the index 0 set active to true. Let's have a look at what we get in the game now. So technically what should happen is we just put them in the list, we toggle them off just like this, and then we toggle on the first one, which is the low poly wolf. And here you go. So the first one is the low poly wolf. Okay, now the second step, the second big step we have to do is actually have some kind of input coming in from the user. So the user decides which model he wants. We could be doing a canvas for this, adding buttons, or we can be like just listening to the keys, and if he does the mouse arrows or whatever, you could be changing it. Now I don't know which method we should do. I don't really care about which one, but I know most of you guys will ask me to do canvas, so I'll just go like that and I'll do a quick canvas, but I won't spend too much time explaining what's going on. I right click, do a UI, we'll add a button. Right, so now if we just double click on our button, we see our canvas. Let's go quickly here, and that would be our game screen. Now let's just say that our button is going to be in a panel, so I'll just create a panel on top of it. Drag my button inside, anchor this on the left. Let's say it's going to be of width 500. It's going to take the whole height, and this is going to be the button that that would be the left arrow. I'll just do a little sign like that. And now let's resize that to say 200 by 200. That's too big. Let's go with 100 by 100. And what I'll do with the panel actually is I'll put it in the center. Sorry, I'm doing things in a weird order here. I'm just trying to make this look good. So let's quickly do that. 300. And now I'll anchor this on the right side. What I want is to have like a button that toggles left on this side and a button that toggles right on this side. Even though we only have two models, at the end of the video we might add another one just to see if this works properly. So let's keep going. Where was I? Okay, I was making this little bit of UI more pleasant to look at. And here we go, basically. That's very small font. I'll just increase it. Alright, that's our first button. So this is the left. Let's go for a right this time. I simply duplicated that. I'm going to copy the value on the other side and change the text. And we're also going to add a final button, which is the confirm button. This one's going to be anchored in the center at the bottom. And then I can give it like a small margin like that. 25 would be great. Add the width to 250, 75. As far as the text, we're simply going to write confirm. Okay, so here we go. We made a little bit of UI like that. I'm going to toggle off the image of my panel, and we should end up with something like this. Hopefully it's centered. It's not. I'll just move my camera a little bit. So what about something like that? That would be great. Copy, and then I'll paste when I'm offline. Okay, so we almost made it, but basically, as you can tell, we now have our buttons. We just need to link them to some function. But now these function, we don't have them just yet, so we gotta make sure we have them, and we're gonna be putting them in our very nice script, the character selection script. But since they're, their function we're gonna be calling from buttons, we need to create public function. So we're gonna go ahead and just do a public, let's say toggle left. It's going to be a void, so it's not going to return anything, but it's going to toggle our selection towards the left side. Now, what exactly do we do when we toggle our selection, when we swap from the first model and we go -1 from there? Well, the first thing we need in this case is we need to keep track at which index are we at right now, which model are we looking at. So we'll do private int index. It's equal to 0 at first. By default, it's always equal to 0. So we know that if index, we know that if we toggle left, we're going to do an index minus minus, or if you prefer, index minus equal 1, or index is equal to index -1. It's really up to you which way you write it. And then we'll do a little security check to see if we're not outside of the array range. So if index is smaller than 0, like -1, then if that's the case, we're going to say index is now equal to character list dot length -1, which is going to bring you back to the end of the index, and now we go from the end of the index and we can keep going down from there. Okay, so we did change the int. We did say that, okay, if you're on index 2, you're going to go to index 1. If you're on the index 0, you're going to go back to the last index. We did that. That's cool. But now we never really update the model. What we're going to do is we're going to be wrapping this around two different calls. The first one up here is going to be toggle off the current model, and at the end is toggle on the current model. The new model, actually, in this case. So before we modify our index, we're going to use it. We're going to say character list at index.setActive to false. So we're turning off the wolf if we're looking at the wolf. And then at the very end here, now that we have updated our index, we're going to say character list at index, that's still the same index, setActive to true. And this should actually work super good. Let's just test this single function out right now. To test it out, I'm going to not double click, but I'm going to go on my button, my left button, and I'm on the right side. Yep, my left button over here. I'll go on the unclick, drag and drop my character list in there, and we're going to say character selection, toggle left. By pressing play now, I should be able to click on that button, and it changes, as you can see. It changes the model. Okay, so now we're going to duplicate this function and we're going to do a toggle right. Now if you're really nitpicky about the way you write your code, you could be putting everything in a single function and just have, say, a boolean that says is left or is right, and you'd just be changing that. But since I know most of you are beginners, we are going to just make another function, call it toggle right, make sure everything is separated and everything is super nice looking and, just easy to understand. So in the toggle right, pretty much the same thing happens here. We toggle off the current model, but now the index is index ++ because we're going towards the right. So we need to increment our index. And we're going to say if the index is equal to character list.length, if that's the case, then we need to set the index back on 0. And here we go. We've got our toggle right just working fine, the same exact way as the toggle left works. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this guy. Let's go ahead and just plug it in really quickly. So we're going to be adding our character list. And this is going to be toggle right. Nice. Now, finally, the last thing we need is the confirm button. Now, the confirm button is going to be a little bit different. This is where a lot of complicated stuff would happen. Stuff that we haven't seen in the last video. So let's do a using Unity engine scene management, because we're going to be changing scenes. So this button, when we click on it, it's going to take us from the character selection screen to the desert scene, the my level scene basically. So in order to change scene in Unity, now that we're on Unity 5, we need to include the scene management namespace. The reason is, it's because we need to use the scene manager. So I'll quickly make another public, make sure this is public because we're calling it from a button, public void, confirm button or change scene, it's up to you. And here's what's going to happen. We are going to say scene manager, load scene, and we're going to be loading the next scene. So what is the name of my next scene? Let's go check it out. I'm currently on the character selection and I want to go inside of desert scene. What I did is I pressed F2 on it, then I copy this and I will paste it right in here as a string. So technically when I click on that confirm button, it goes to the desert scene, which pretty much just looks like something like that. Probably saw that around the channel quite a lot nowadays. Let's go back and actually plug in our button. So our button is on the canvas. That's the confirm button. We are going to add a onClick event. Character list goes in here, and this is now the confirm button. Everything should be called super nicely. However, I don't think we've added this to build settings, so when we press on it, it says desert scene, the one we're trying to go to, has not been added to the build settings. So here is what we're going to do. Control Shift B, or if you prefer, you go under File, Build Settings, and you need to actually add your two scenes. You can only be adding the desert scene, but I'll just be adding those two for good practice. You just take them, you drag and drop them in the scene in build. Now this way when you're playing, you can go from that scene to this one. Obviously this one is not ready to receive our character just yet, but we're working on that. Toggle right works, toggle left also works. What I'm going to do really quickly is I'm going to just go fetch another model really quickly so we can actually test with multiple other models. Give me just a second, I need to find something. I don't really have a lot of models here, I'm not that good of an artist, so I'll just try my best and find something. I'll be right back. Okay, so I went back to my chess game and I found some pieces we can use. So the white bishop and all those kind of pieces, I'll just drag and drop them really quickly in the game. I'll just place them right where the others are actually, so just make sure everything is at the same very place. Okay, so here they are, and like I said, I'm just going to stack them on top of these guys. Here we go. Right, now all we gotta be doing is, like I said, we just put that in the character list. That's all we need to do. So you just put it in the character list and everything should be working just fine now. As you can tell, we iterate through them without any problem. And we can be testing the toggle right and left now. If you have a look over here in the character list, you can actually tell that I'm pressing on this button because it goes like from this one to this one. And if I press on the left one, it goes back. So as you can tell, everything seems to be working super good. And I'm changing my character, doesn't really matter which one I'm choosing. But when I press on confirm, it goes in this scene. Now this is where the complicated part is. We need to make sure that we actually keep track of which one we selected. And there is so many ways, guys. There is so many ways to do that. The easy way that I mentioned in the last video but I didn't do is that we can be saving this in a player pref. Simply, we can just be saving that in a player pref. And let me show you exactly what I mean by that. We go like this. We say player pref, set int, and now we're going to be giving this a key. So I'll just say character selected. And the value is going to be index, the one we're currently on, the one that we're currently looking at. And that's all we need to do for this scene. Now, the rest is going to be done in the other scene. So let's go ahead and just, what we're going to do is we're going to be taking this character list over here, and I'm going to be taking this, copying it. So right click, copy, and then I'll move over to my level scene. This is where it is at. I'll actually just put that, say, right above here, and I'll paste them in this level. As you can tell, they're really way too small. I'll just scale them up. But here they are. It's the same exact mesh, it's the same object. Don't really need to mess around with that too much. Now the character list we have right here still has the script character selection. And like I said, there's multiple ways to go about this. What we could be doing is we can keep that same exact script and just make sure we're toggling on the right index. I'm actually going to show you how to do that really quickly. And then we're going to look at another technique. So back in our same exact script, the same one we've been using, at the start here, what I'll do is I'll say index is equal to, and we're going to be looking at player pref, get int, and we're getting the int at the index. What is it again? It's character selected. So we're getting int at the index character selected. And now all we're going to be doing at this point is, yeah, we fill the area with model, that's fine. We toggle off all the models, that's also fine. But now we toggle on the selected character. And the way we go about this is we just put index in here. Now what this is going to do is actually going to persist not only through the scenes, but also through reloading the game. So as you can tell right here, we're on the wolf. I click on confirm, we're on this carrot warrior. Then I click on confirm, go in the other game, and as you can tell, that's the carrot warrior right there. It's nothing else but the carrot warrior. Now if I close this and I reboot the game, I'm on the carrot warrior. It actually saved this. Even though carrot warrior is the second one in the list, we still started there. So this is something you might want to do. That's pretty cool. You can just keep it like that, or you could also just be recreating a script that just says, okay, in the start we fetch the index and then we only toggle on that index. Like I said, it's really up to you. There's many ways to go about it. What I'm going to do though is just add a little bit of camera attached to that, and I'll add some movement to the player so we can quickly have a look at what this gives in the end, or some kind of result. So let's quickly add a camera. So I'll right click, add a new camera. Actually put that as a children, because why not? And this is going to be on top of the character list. Now the character list is a little bit messed up in terms of position, so I'll just reset it. Take all the objects, put them back at 0, and we are going to do something of the sort. Now I think the water is messing up my camera, because my camera is not being able to see what's going on. The preview is not helping me right now, but don't worry about that too much. Something like that should work. Now something really important that you must not do, something I've just did that you must not do, is put another children to that character list. As you can tell, if I press on play, I don't see anything, and that's because it considered this as a model, and now this object is toggled off. So we don't want to be doing that, of course. I'll be taking my camera and I'll be removing it. Now the way you have your character set up in the game might change. This might only be the model, and you have some extra collider on it. Here's how I'm going to set up mine. I'll create a new 3D object, a sphere, sorry, not a sphere, a capsule, center it on the world, then I'll move it up just a little bit, and this is going to be my collider for every single object. And I'll call this player, put it under the tag player, because why not? And now what's going to happen is I'll take my character list, and this is going to be a children of it. I'll toggle off the mesh renderer on my capsule, and we're gonna end up with a result like that. So this character list is only for the model, and that's exactly what we want. As you can tell, this is a model, and on top of it, there is the capsule collider. Now you can be changing that. I like to change that by a character controller. Then we can create a small script. Let's call it player motor. And you do the usual movement stuff, so you go ahead and just declare a private void update, and you just do the typical movement stuff at this point. So I'll just go ahead and write something super simple. Move vector is equal to, actually let's do a new vector 3, is equal to vector 3 dot 0, and I'll remove that one because that's going to be useless. I'll also, since I've just put a character controller, I'll also just go get a reference to that. because that's what I'll be moving in the end. So private character controller, controller, in the start I'll do controller is equal to get component character controller. Trying to type fast here, that's why it's so messed up. And just set value depending on your input. So move vector.x is equal to input.getAxis, and we're getting the axis horizontal. Same thing for the vertical one. And I'm doing that on Z because Y is up and down, which is not something we want to modify here. And we do a controller.move. Move vector.time.delta time. This way we move 1 meter every second. Let's multiply that by, say, 5. We move 5 meters every second. So as you can tell right here, I have my player motor, which is on this object, and then inside of it, I do have the character list we just made. So let's go from the start and have a look at this now. We start from this scene, we choose which object we want, which model. Let's go for the wolf. Click confirm, and then if you have a look in the game, that's our player. That it does our player logic. So if we just go left and right, it should actually move, but it does not right now, and I'll figure out why in a moment. And just beneath it, we have the character list, which is only there for moving the well, not for moving, but for toggling which character we are. And of course, you can actually change that in the middle of the game as well. So if you just want to put another button, just like we did in the first scene, and go from this model to the other one, you can do that in the same play session. Now let me quickly find out why exactly my player motor does not work. Okay, so it turns out that Visual Studio was not completely synced with the game, and now it works for some reason. So here we go. As you can tell, we're not really moving the camera, so what we can do is have our own camera script, or we can simply take the camera and put it as a children of the player. This is going to work because we're not putting it inside of the character list. And as you can tell, we're having a very good time just moving our wolf around. And again, I'll just go a little bit further, and just like we did in the first scene with the canvas here, we can go in the desert scene, copy our canvas. I've just copied the same exact canvas we had. I'm going to remove the confirm button, just add the left and right, and I'll be putting my player, my character list in there. Toggle left, and this would be toggle right. And if we go back in the character selection scene, we have a look at this whole scene now. Okay, let's get and just take the bishop. Go in the game, and oh, finally I do not like the bishop. I'd rather have the wolf. Here it is. So guys, you can also use spacebar to click on the button when they're selected. And guys, yeah, that's about it for this tutorial. I hope this cleared things up. I hope you understand now how to switch scene and keep track of that character. And guys, please leave a like on the video if it did help you. And if you have any comment or question, you can leave them in the comment section below. Other than that, please check out the Patreon page if you wish to support me. Make this my full-time job, because I like speaking to the camera sometimes. Even though I'm not actually showing the camera. That's, yeah. We'll get back to that. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe for more, and I will see you next time.